Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Joe's welcoming address. He also emphasized on the importance and the motivation of convergence education with the STEAM or STEM approaches that has been evolutionized in developed countries and also developing countries. So he, thank you for his comment on. Right. Okay. The next one is two keynote speakers presentation to celebrate this international seminar. We invited two prominent university experts on convergence education and its philosophical and methodological implication on convergence education. The first presenter, well, she's my colleague, close colleagues, and I'm personally quite pleased to announce Professor Jung Eun-young. She's now is professor of artist department, and her title is some reflections on convergence, creativity, and instructional design in the era of constant turns. After her presentation, the next invited speaker as keynote remark, Pamela Bernard. Currently, she's also a professor of University of Cambridge in United Kingdom, titled on Revisioning Post-Humanity, Transdisciplinary Creativities and Pedagogy. Subtitle is New Directions. So would you please welcome to first keynote speaker, Professor Jung Eun-young, with our warmful greetings. Professor,
thank you.
Yeah, Professor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction, Professor Kim. I will share the screen for you to see. Okay. Can you see the screen? Yeah,
Yes.
It should be huge because my screen, my monitor is really big. Anyway, I'm very pleased and honored to deliver a keynote speech today for ICAS conference today. The title of my talk is Some Reflections on Convergence, Creativity, and Instructional Design in the Era of Constant Turns. My name is Eun-young Jung. I'm teaching art history, aesthetics, and art theories at the Department of Art Education at Korea National University of Education. I'm also part of STEAM Teachers Education, supported by the Ministry of Education, and which is conducted in our university. So I'm very pleased to deliver a talk related to STEAM education and convergence education today. Okay, originally, Professor Bernard, she was supposed to deliver her keynote speech before ahead of me, but I think she is in Norway now, and she is having some kind of problems connecting to the internet. But right after my talk, she will join without any problem. Anyway, okay. The purpose of my talk today is to share some critical reflections on the current human conditions and critical reflections on the constant turns in theoretical discourses, and to think about their implications for education. And based on these reflections and thoughts, I will discuss the importance of integrative convergence education in response to turns and shifts in life. And I want to stress the need to explore transdisciplinary subjects or mindsets for instructors to enhance creativity and criticality in integrative education beyond separate disciplines. And finally, I will address the key role of STEAM in this transdisciplinary education and emphasize that convergence, creativities, and instructional design should be mutually enriching and enhancing for a holistic learning to occur. Okay, this is the contents. So first, I will talk about discursive turns and life in flux, and then I will talk about turns and their implications for education. And finally, I will talk about convergence and creativities in STEAM education. Okay. Our era has been epitomized by so many discursive turns addressing the changes of intellectual, social, technological conditions. But what are the turns? Well, today I'm talking about the turns, and I think you may be wondering what turns are really. Okay, turns refer to changes or shifts in theoretical discourses or intellectual perspectives in which a bunch of scholars and researchers stress enthusiastically a new set of agendas or fundamental factors for explaining about what constitutes human being, what constitutes society, what is important in culture, in history, or, explaining about the environments. So there are a lot of turns in the field of, research, academic discourses. And among the turns championed by theorists in the 20th and 21st centuries are the linguistic turn, the cognitive turn, as you see here, social cognitive turn, material turn, an affective turn, emotional turn, embodied turn, culture turn, ethical turn, dialogic turn. There are a lot of turns, and we may add many more, such as digital turn, neuroscientific turn, AI turn. I want to look at 3 significant turns today among this, which are worth critical reflections regarding education, because they explain what constitutes human being, or more precisely, as they were believed to explain what constitutes human being in terms of cognitive, emotional, practical faculties. So the 3 turns are notably the linguistic turn, the affective turn, the ethical turn. First, the linguistic turn. It originated with the Austrian-British philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein and later championed by the American philosopher, pragmatist philosopher, Richard Rorty. And it refers to the reconception of the nature and methods of philosophy, which attempts to elucidate philosophical problems by clarifying the use of language. But I'm talking about this linguistic turn as important because it is not confined to analytic philosophy or philosophy of language or logical positivism. It goes beyond the discipline of analytic philosophy. The importance of language has been accepted across many academic disciplines, and we generally acknowledge that language shapes the way we think and even determines what we can think and what we can think about. As Wittgenstein mentioned, the limits of language are the limits of our world. So the linguistic turn is not confined to the philosophy of language. It expanded to cognitive or social cognitive turn, and we can even say that it expanded to cognitive science. And the second is the affective turn. It refers to a turn to affect an emotion in the humanities and social sciences. It draws upon the line of thought from Spinoza and Bergson to the French philosophers Deleuze and Guattari. And contemporary theorists such as Brian Massumi and Patricia Clow stress that our feelings and impulses, attitudes, and emotions are not confined to the area of what is called emotion per se. They say that our emotions and feelings, our attitudes and impulses have a broader dimension, biological, social, cultural dimensions. So the affect theory highlights a dynamism which is immanent to our body or bodily matter and even matter in general, bringing together theories of the body, theories of embodiment, political theories, critical analysis, biology, and neuroscience. And the American political scientist, political philosopher, Michael Hart has noted that this affective turn has developed some of the most innovative and productive ideas in recent years. Again, the affective turn is not confined or limited to the realm of emotion. It actually covers a broader dimensions, and it has expanded to somatic turn, embodied turn, and it eventually is related to the ethical turn, which I would like to address as the third important turn. The ethical turn refers to a turn to ethics in humanities, arts, and culture. The ethical turn is represented by Lithuanian French philosopher Emmanuel Levinas, who asserts that ethics is the first philosophy. So the ethical turn focuses on, of course, the ethics, and it put a lot of emphasis on the otherness and the encounter with others as the origin of self-understanding. So basically, it emphasizes the inner subjectivities of being, or the inner subjective responsibility. And the ethical turn has taken center in a variety of academic disciplines. Again, it is not confined to ethics per se. But as the French philosopher Jacques Rancière asserts, the ethical turn should not be interpreted as the subjection to moral criteria or to moral rules. Rather, he says that we should think the etymology of ethos. The term ethos means the dwelling of being, the way we dwell in the world, the way we make relationship with the environment, as well as with others. So Rancière says that ethics is the kind of thinking which establishes the identity between an environment, a way of being, and the principle of action. So again, what I'm trying to say here is that the ethical turn is not confined to ethics. It is much more comprehensive, covering the way we live in this world. But anyway, why do we need to consider these shifting discourses or theoretical turns? And what do these constant turns have to do with education? I will address two reasons why I discuss these terms in discursive field. First of all, in terms of the understanding of human being and the individual's competencies, the terms may be grouped together just as what I said before, grouped together as linguistic cognitive turn and the affective emotional turn and the ethical practical embodied turn, which lead us to think about education. I guess a lot of you already are recalled of educational objectives. The grouping of turns into linguistic, cognitive, affective, emotional, and ethical embodied turns reminds us of the old taxonomy of educational goals, which was presented by Benjamin Bloom, long time ago in 1956. And it was later revised by Anderson and Crethwell. So the old taxonomy of educational goals and the more recent revised versions of learning competencies, including the OECD Learning Framework 2030. So as you can see here, this circle shows the three domains of learning presented by Bloom, the old taxonomy of learning: cognitive domain, affective domain, psychomotor domain. And here we can see a clear correspondence between this and these terms. And right below this circle shows the revised version of educational goals presented by Anderson and Crethwell. It is less rigid set of human competencies, including knowledge, attitudes and values, and skills. And on the far right, we see the OECD Learning Compass 2030. And we see here, I don't know whether you can see here clearly, but they present a learning framework here: knowledge, attitudes and values, and skills. So basically, they introduce this revised taxonomy of educational goals into the Learning Compass 2030. And this learning framework defines the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values as key component of learning. Again, what I'm trying to point here is the exact correspondence between the three kind of theoretical turns in the research field and the three domains of learning or educational goals in education. So there is a clear correspondence between the three groups of terms that I just mentioned in three domains of learning or educational goals. And the point I want to make here is that, of course, we cannot and should not divide the domains of learning or human competencies, because we are neither a divided being nor a mere combination of separate domains. So the goals of education and resultant domains of learning should be integrated. So that is the first point. The first reason I talk about turns, discursive turns. And secondly, the turns are not confined to shifting theories or temporary trends in academic research. Rather, they are alternative perspectives on human beings, on the world, on the environment. Such alternative perspectives attest to the fact that the forceful factor emphasized in each turn has made a huge impact on our understanding of the world and actually transformed our everyday lives. So I put the image of the globe, the Earth here, and I put a bigger image of learning compass by OECD, future education and skills. We may be able to identify the emergence or the starting point of terms based on the literature, but it's impossible to tell the end or demise of those terms, since they continue to shape our understanding of ourselves and the world, and they continue to influence our life. In short, they accumulate and converge. In terms of converging terms, I would like to mention two terms specifically. I didn't include these two terms because these two terms are really, really profound, much more fundamental, I think. It is almost like paradigm shift. The two terms are posthumanism and the Anthropocene. The two terms epitomize the convergent point of all these terms, I think. Posthumanism, about which Professor Bernard will address in the second talk. Posthumanism may be the culmination of terms, discursive terms, that indicates a crucial shift in the understanding of human being. I think it is really important. And the Anthropocene, which is a new geological epoch in the planet's history, I know it's unofficial term for the planet's geological epoch. But I think the Anthropocene is arguably the ultimate shift in the fact that our species has brought a tremendous change to the Earth system. And I was, there's posthumanism and the Anthropocene. But I will skip the explanation about posthumanism and the Anthropocene. But what implications do these have for education? I think it is this. Our real-life questions, including epistemological, ontological, practical, ethical problems, arise from the conjunctures, the meeting points of these terms. And they arise from the very intersections of multiple disciplines and fields. Hence, the need for transdisciplinary convergence education to foster creativities and critical thinking. I'm an art historian, but I'm trying to learn. I'm trying my best to learn science, technology, and other fields because I think it is crucial for people in arts and humanities to learn science and technology and math. And vice versa, people in science and technology, I think should think about philosophy, humanities, arts, and culture. So anyway, I'm trying to say that it is really, really important to think about and practice transdisciplinary education. In education, these turns and shifts have put enormous challenges, of course, on setting the goals, the content, and the methods of teaching and learning. But they also provide valuable opportunities to situate current education specifically within the present human conditions, which are entangled with social, cultural, ecological, technological environments. And the theme of this conference, Convergence, Creativities, Design, I think provides a really, really good, perfect set of terms that exactly addresses that we should recast and reframe the educational goals and objectives, the learning content and activities, and the pedagogical means and methods in response to the increasingly broad and profound terms. Certainly, the emphasis on convergence and creativity in education is by no means a recent phenomenon, but the importance of transdisciplinary knowledge and creative problem solving has been particularly stressed since the 1990s, when information technology started to radically change our lives. And currently, various advanced technologies are progressively merging, actually converging. For example, nano, bio, info, cogno technologies. They are converging into artificial intelligence technology, as you know. And we all know that the most active and perhaps most innovative transdisciplinary explorations of creativities are being done in the field of artificial intelligence. That is for machine learning, deep learning, not for human learning, which is very ironic, I think. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that it is important than ever that we foster students and our own creative, critical thinking across disciplines in order to understand the complexity of current human conditions and in order to try to deal with and solve real-life problems. It is significant to address arts and humanities in learning about science and technologies. And I believe STEAM is the answer for this transdisciplinary, convergent, creative education. STEAM provides an excellent model of integrative education, responding to the world in rapid and intense transformation, specifying. So STEAM specifies the educational goals as creativities with critical thinking and problem-solving capabilities. And it also specifies the content of learning, the integration of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. But it does not offer educators the means by which to achieve these goals. I think that is the difficulty that a lot of STEAM teachers face. STEAM teachers would face many challenges in terms of instructional design that integrates content and methods. We know that inquiry-based pedagogical approaches and problem-based learning, which is known as PBL, would be most appropriate for STEAM. But the biggest challenge for teachers to implement STEAM in class is the integrative multidisciplinary teaching, for which teachers should be knowledgeable about different subjects' content outside their specialty and apply them in class simultaneously. So it is really, really difficult. In Korea, I think the government of Republic of Korea is very well aware of this fact. In Korea, STEAM education was introduced in 2011 and actively supported by the Ministry of Education, and especially the Korea Foundation for the Advancement of Science and Creativity under the Ministry of Education developed the learning standards framework of STEAM because it is really difficult, really difficult for teachers to actually implement STEAM in class, STEAM curricula and extracurricular activities. So they developed the learning standards framework of STEAM so that teachers could use for designing instructions. For example, you see here, the STEAM learning standards framework suggests that the STEAM class can consist of context presentation, creative design, and emotional touch to let students recognize problems related to real life, and to facilitate students to solve the problems with creative endeavors and infuse students with interest and motivation to learn by trial and error and take on new challenges. But still, multidisciplinary knowledge and its implication remain a big challenge for teachers, I think. In order for STEAM to address the complexity of human conditions entangled with social, technological, ecological environments. Again, I'm saying that arts and humanities should be fully integrated in STEAM teaching and learning. It should be designed in ways which creative activities and critical thinking are built into the whole process, the holistic process of learning, rather than merely being added on as a separate additional component. But again, how in what exact ways teachers can design an effective STEAM class remain to be a task that may only be fulfilled in each and every specific practice of teaching, in each and every specific setting of education. Okay. There may be, so in conclusion, there may be no royal road to the perfect instructional design of STEAM, but we can make an important step forward by reflecting on the current human and ecological conditions and by collaborating with people from different fields. We, educators and researchers, artists and scientists, should collaborate and communicate more and more actively beyond separate disciplines and fields. In closely intertwined convergence, creativities, and instructional design should be mutually enriching and enhancing, mutually empowering, so that learning can be a holistic experience full of meaning and joy in the age of incessant turns. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for Professor Jung Eun-young's keynote speech that emphasized well, as far as I understand, her talks talking about the milestone, or we are just around the corner of highlighting the motivation and the importance of the convergence education based on creativities and STEAM design approaches. So we are, well, this is a real time for us to rethink about how to develop or how to evolve her ideas on our each subject, including geography education as well. Right, okay, we have next presenter, Pamela Bernard. Yeah, I can, I can see you, Pamela, are you okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay. Yes, the weather. Oh, how about the weather in your country or the other way? Anyway, so
in Norway. I'm in Norway.
Oh, Norway.
And it's blue sky in Norway.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Pamela, would you be able to ready?
Yes.
To
Shall I?
your speech? Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Pamela, you have a floor. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing the sound, and I'm optimizing for a video, and I'm finding that it's this one. And let's see if it comes up. Can you see my screen? I can't see my screen.
Yes, I
either.
can. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
You
The floor is yours. Yeah.
So, but can you see my slides? I can't see my slides. Wait, you can? Okay,
yes,
there we go.
I can.
Now you can. Okay, fine.
No,
you
I think
can't.
these are not your slides, Pam. Yeah, this is your Zoom screen.
Can you see them now? Because I can. Yes.
I cannot see your PowerPoint.
Okay, so I'll stop share and I'll start again. Yeah. I have sent them to you. So I'll start again. Screen, I'm sharing the sound, optimizing, and there we go. Are you seeing something that?
No problem. Yeah.
You've got them now. I see. You have them.
I got it. We got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. You have floor. Yeah. You are a real ton.
Can you take can you just show the slides, not the notes, please? Show the slides, not the notes. Perfect. What a collaboration. Fantastic. And now I put on my timer, so I have 20 minutes, and I'm going to revision post-humanist transdisciplinary creativity. I applaud the previous speaker. Thank you, Professor Yoon Yong Jung. I thought what you said was visionary and precisely where we are in terms of STEM to STEAM education. I want to take that further and make the case for transdisciplinary, for actually saying that this is a transdisciplinary education practice, and to put the lens, a lens of post-humanism in front in order to contemporize the conditions of where we are in 2021 globally. And so we begin. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I've spent many, many years researching creativity, and I've decided over those years that there's more, no, back, the first slide, back, please. Go back to the other, second slide, thank you. Where this is an assemblage, a distillation of research on creative learning, creative teaching for creativity, teaching creatively, and creative thinking skills. Now, all of these ideas and theorizing and practices are fantastic. But, next slide, please. Which creativity are we educating for? Which creativity? Is it mathematical creativity and science creativity? Put those together. Is that transdisciplinary creativity? How does the merging, the integration of subject knowledge change the nature of how knowledge is being authored, created? Hence this plural. And I want to celebrate this book, which has just been published in the last week, come out in print and an ebook, and it unlocks research, unlocks and diversifies the ways we can author new learning. And this book is co-authored, and Christoph is in this book as well, along with Chris is in this book, co-authored by teachers in partnership with researchers, in partnership with students. And that student voice is very, very important to emphasize. The actual community of learning, you know, the learning community of an institution, of a school, of a nursery, comprises of teachers, parents, and pupils. Next slide, please. Now, what I'd like to emphasize in this book, there's many chapters, but I'm going to emphasize 3 chapters, one on transdisciplinary creativities, one on childhood creativities, and one on spatial creativities. All 3 have worked with the idea of the lens of post-humanism, which changes how you see, what you see, and when you see. And I hope to make this clear as we go through. So in this presentation, I'd like to illustrate 3 diverse creativities, meaning ways of authoring, something new, as a possibility for changing how we think about instructional design. I'd like to flip instructional design into something that is really contemporizes it. We think of timetables. I'd like to think of space tables. So next slide, please. Next slide. So here we see, next slide, please. Thank you. Childhood creativity. This is a chapter in this book written by Karen Mouris, who is a professor of education in South Africa. and Joanne Piers, who is a researcher, and Nadia Woodward, who was a head teacher and artist in charge of this school. And this chapter is called Learning at a Snail's Pace. What if, what else is happening? And those two questions are key to thinking in a post-humanist way. What if, what else is happening? It's not just looking at the learning objective and the assessment. It's looking at the child and the learning and saying, what else is going on in this learning, particularly when it's so transdisciplinary. In this, you'll see the unlocking of research, which is particular to each chapter. They unlock research that's already been done, in this case by Mouris, Reynolds and Piers, looking at Reggio Emilia inspired philosophical teacher education in the Anthropocene. And this Anthropocene, our relationship to the earth, to sustainability. I'm hearing some gorgeous children's voices, absolutely beautiful. And that is precisely what we need to be listening to, the children's voices. What are they experiencing in 2021? If you're 4 years old, you've spent half your life in lockdown. You've spent half your life, 2 years, almost 2 years, seeing people with masks, not going outside, coming at, a whole change in socialization. So understanding childhood, you see in these pictures, children experientially engaged with material, the materiality of learning, doing the learning and performing the learning. And essentially their thinking, doing and knowing is inseparable. We cannot know without being. I can't know mathematics without being mathematical, doing mathematics, being mathematical, thinking of myself as a mathematician. So it's a very inseparable thing. I'm still hearing more voices now they're adults, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, can we move on to the Zoom room? Some people have got their mics open, so we're hearing what you're saying. Next okay. Slide, please. Next slide, please.
Yeah, we tried to fix it in the morning, but it didn't work.
No problem. I'm happy to have a conversation with people. The next one is spatial creativity. Spatial creativity. What if we used our school corridors to support and inspire transdisciplinary learning? To not only to support and inspire transdisciplinary learning, but instructional design performed. What would instructional design look like? And what would happen if you co-authored it? Co-authored it with children, with parents, with artists, with scientists, with mathematicians, of course, driven and originating and led by your teachers, to exemplify the performance and the meetings of arts and sciences. And when I say arts and sciences, I mean STEAM, but I'm actually being more specific when I say transdisciplinarity, that there is new knowledge created from the exchange of these subjects. And this chapter is unlocking research from an author written in 2020, Perry, who's written on pluriversal creativity. So it's a multiple, and it's a relationship and it's an exchange across these multiple creativities. Affect and relationality in vulnerable times, an absolute must read. Now, this chapter was written by a head teacher of this school in England and three architects. These architects have PhDs in education. So they are designing buildings and designing the interior and exterior in relationality with each other. And they're advising on the redesign of the spaces for learning so that the space itself performs STEAM. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And this is an example, and I'll come back to this idea of transdisciplinary creativity, but here you see some images unlocking research on interdisciplinary education. Are we faced with insurmountable opportunities? This was in 1992. And these authors, who are Donald Gray, you'll know and remember the wonderful Professor Donald Gray from Scotland, from Aberdeen University, who also gave a keynote. And this is him writing with his partner, his wife, Laura Colucci Gray, who is one of my collaborators. We work and write together, and we wrote a commissioned piece from STEAM to STEM, funded by the British Education Research Association, BERA. If you Google STEM to STEAM, BERA Commission, B-E-R-A, it'll come up. 200 pages with summaries of the literature from STEM to STEAM. Now 5 years old. We're writing beyond STEM to STEAM, now writing about transdisciplinary education. I'll speak more about that soon. But look at this chapter. It looks at the constrained space of school, you know, the school, inside the school and outside of school spaces, and making more of the school ground as a classroom, not just outdoor education. It transcends that. It's actually tackling climate change, problem solving, agricultural practices, doing design-based projects around the problems of mass consumerism, nutrition, environmental sounds and sciences. A must read. Very happy to send that chapter today if you'd like to read it. Next one, please. And so next slide, please. We move to another part of the jigsaw puzzle. Please change the slide. Thank you. This is Dan Harris from RMIT in Melbourne, Australia. This is her model, his model of thinking about creative ecology. Your institution as a creative ecology, schools as a creative ecology, as situated creative ecologies. Every school is a different kind of planet. You know, there's something about the head teacher, the senior management, the location of the school, the catchment area, the community. If you look at the policies in the school and look at the processes of teaching and learning, look at the products in terms of the curriculum and the assessment, look at what partnerships are operating in that school, look at the physical environment of the school, and connect all those dots. This is then make some observations and some claims about that before thinking about the redesigning of what instructional design, the reconceptualization of instructional design should be underpinned by the creative ecologies in the school. I don't think that instructional design as a recipe for every school is going to work. It's about the principle, the modality, the overarching kind of ethos of the instructional design may have commonalities, but the way it's done and how it's done and who's doing it who's implementing the instructional design will situate the nature of the STEAM practice. Next slide, please. So with all that in mind, I'd like to take you to a school, next slide, please, in the University of Cambridge Primary School. And this is the University of Cambridge Primary School, designed by, back please to the school, designed by architects who have used research-informed practices. Just back to the school, if you wouldn't mind. And I'm not going to play this this slide. I did have a 3-minute slide video of the school, but instead of showing you the slide, it's number 9. I'm going to, because we probably don't have time and it probably won't, it will play. Here is the head teacher. He's a music specialist. I'll say it again. He's a music specialist, and he uses performative practices to engage professional development, teaching teachers to think differently about STEAM and the integrated practice of subjects. Look, observe what's going on in terms of body, in terms of the creative space, and in terms of what you see this teaching team do. It's a professional development day. Please play.
Popping it out.
7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Come together and we move out.
Hello? Hello?
Rainbow Drops of Adventure!
We've been in the dining room so many times before, and sometimes we forget that this beautiful piece of artwork that you created has some really important messages, not only for our normal way of working, but also for welcoming you back to school. So, you know, in this over here, it says, in friendship with empathy, kind words will echo eternally. So we're going to be really focusing on friendship when you come back to school. What other words can I see here? With gratitude, be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. So gratitude's also important. We've got so many things to be grateful for, and we're going to be focusing on how we can really celebrate all the wonderful things in our lives. What else can I see? Oh, this is good.
Okay, so can I stop the presentation? Hello.
Really
Could I stop? Thank you. Just move. I've been asked to end this presentation, so I'm going to end with the next slide, please. In summary, what if school creative ecologies, learning communities decide together how to go about unlocking research? What if the community itself, that includes children, engages with the authoring of, just take me back to the beginning, it's okay. Just stop on one, because yeah, that's it. What if you co-created new types of instructional designs that didn't separate process and product, that didn't separate the learner's ideas about learning and the teacher's ideas about learning? What if the instructional design actually acknowledged that it's not just humans that we're working with here? We're working in more than human and non-human elements, non-human technology, more than human nature. So it is a coming together that decenters the human and acknowledges the sustainability, the need for sustainability of educational practices, but also citizenship and citizens and global citizens. So the enactment of transdisciplinary education, I think, is so interconnected to the creative ecology of the school that the instructional design has to come from inside up, grow like seeds, like a dandelion. These seeds kind of go and enact change from the ground up. And that's my message, that we are all interconnected, that learning and teaching is interconnected, that STEAM education is at its height transdisciplinary education. Thinking finally of Leonardo da Vinci, who was a polymath. He drew everything. He drew everything, the body. He drew the machines of the future that could fly. He drew everything. He connected mathematics, science, arts. They were all interconnected and inseparable. And therefore, We need to think very differently about instructional design from the ground up, situated in the school, drawing from the creative ecology of that community. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Pamela Bernard. I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry for not giving enough time to deliver your presentation.
No, you gave me enough time. You gave me 20 minutes, and if I can't send the message in 20 minutes, then I've not done my job. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Thanks very much indeed. Again, Professor Pamela, and I'm sure there are a number of questions and or comment from the floor, including me. I mean, so however, tonight we have a little tight timetable and schedules to run this international conference. So would you please from the floor send your comment or question about two prominent keynote speakers on chatting box on your Zoom screen, and then our local committee staff members collect and summarize to share the comment or comments for two keynote speakers during this international seminar. Okay, so I have an announcement. So we have next following joint sessions. However, we will need to at least 5 minutes break to organize or to make adequate time performance of next session. So we're gonna start next joint session after 5 minutes later from now. So and now is 20 minutes past 5 o'clock in Korean Standard Time, and as far as I know, European Central Time probably in 20 past 10 a.m. Am I right? So what about to start 5:25 or 10:25 a.m. in European Central Time for next joint session. So okay, we're gonna have a 5 break time. Okay, thank you very much. And during the time, please the moderator of joint sessions to check internet facilities or conditions or any audiovisual facilities and conditions. Thank you. Thank you very much.